Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Duval Dive. Uh, Kyle, the student of the game, Nash, is unfortunately out for the day, but that is okay. We have a special guest coming at you live from the studio, friend of the pod, Daniel Griffis. For many of you who may or may not recognize him, that's my guy from formerly, of Jaguars on SI, but also currently now with Wildcard Analytics. Say hi to the people, man.
Hey, how we doing? Thank you guys, sir. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh man, it's a good day, man. It's a great time in Duval County. It's a great time in Jacksonville right now. Everybody seems to be on cloud nine. We got all the news breaking. If you are new to our channel, take a look at the past videos. Take a look at the past podcasts. We just covered just yesterday, talking about the updates to the Jaguars general manager search. They have 7 different candidates lined up. Technically, they had 8, but Mikey Greenberg had other ideas. We got into that a little bit. But have you been updated on what's kind of going on in Duval County as far as the GM search? Have you been kind of paying attention, Dan?
Yeah, and I'll be honest. Like it's you and I's job, and it's still difficult. It's like every 15 minutes or something. Twitter's a full-time job right now in Jacksonville for media members. Just saw that they were talking about Ian Cunningham, Yoda, whoever Yoda, and Pretty Ricky is like the pinnacle of Jaguars Twitter right now. But they were
Hey,
talking about
man.
maybe Cunningham's not going to be the guy.
No,
I've
that's
been
factual.
I saw that like 5 minutes ago, so we'll see. And I like Cunningham. I like a
Yeah.
good number of the guys. Baselli was also talking well upon Ethan Waugh today, so that's something else to to
Yes. For those
monitor.
of you who missed it, Tony Baselli, Jacksonville Jaguars, now executive vice president EVP, was on one of the 1010 shows earlier on today, Wednesday, discussing the fact that Ethan Waugh was going to be in that top 3 to 5 finalists just because of the work that he's already done, kind of what he's already shown on the table. But definitely go to 1010XL. If you search for it, you can find those interviews out there. But nevertheless, that gave some Jacksonville Jaguar fans angst because they want a clean sweep. But nevertheless, that's what Dan's referencing as far as, Edilla, Pretty Ricky, Yoda. The Jacksonville Jaguars get just a little bit of success, and I say success being off-season success, and all of a sudden we got insiders everywhere, bro. I don't know what to take from all of that because as far as the Ian Cunningham news, but nevertheless, again, we mentioned 7 candidates lined up, or 6 requested, a 7th being Ethan Waugh, Jacksonville Jaguars interim GM. Uh, Again, we have the Bears assistant general manager Ian Cunningham, Giants assistant general manager Brandon Brown. We got Mikey Greenberg took himself out of the consideration. Assistant general manager for the Chargers, Chad Alexander. But belle of the ball, apparently, if you ask any of the Jacksonville Jaguar fans, you have James Gladstone, the Rams director of scouting, who was the successor to Brad Holmes, and Bengals senior personnel executive Trey Brown. And then we have, Josh Williams from the
Williams,
San
yeah,
Francisco
San Francisco.
49ers, who was a recent ad based on, after Mikey Greenberg kind of took himself out of consideration. So that is your current initial list, anyways. Per the team and per the reports that are kind of out there. I have a write up on BigCatCountry.com that was just put out on Wednesday morning. Please take a look at that. It is chock full of information. I got interviews. We got interviews from the actual GMs themselves. We have breakdowns of their history, players that they've identified in their process for being scouts, all of it. So definitely go and check that out. Everyone seems to have their favorite general manager candidate, but a lot of people I'm talking to don't really know a lot about these guys. So I wanted to make sure we show them and kind of have that conversation.
I myself can
But
learn something
I
from
was
it.
going to ask you, do you have a favorite? And if you don't, that's okay also.
Um, of what I don't, admittedly, I didn't do as much research on GM candidates as I did for the head coaching candidates because I think we all kind of knew that Doug Peterson was gone, and Balky was kind of up in the air. We all thought Balky was going to be gone, and then they ended up didn't do it. And I didn't take the time to research as much as I should have, looking back now, on the GM candidates. But I mean, I think very highly of Gladstone and what the Rams have done we all thought a few years ago when they made all of those trades, first round picks, that at some point it was going to have to collapse to where they
Yeah.
just don't have anything left to make do with in the offseason. And that's never happened. And they're as strong now as they were back then. Almost. They're not, you had the Super Bowl a couple years ago with them against the Bengals. So I think very highly of the Rams organization, especially drafting the last couple of years. Jared Verse, Fisk. This past draft was fantastic. So especially recently, the last couple of drafts, they've done a really good job. I think very highly of the Chargers organization as well. San Francisco is obviously about as good as it gets. I don't know too much about the Giants. The Giants guy, I'm blanking on his name. You just mentioned it, and I've already.
Oh, Brandon Brown. Yep.
Yeah. I don't know too much about that. Giants are kind of in a sticky situation right now. You don't have as much foundational success as you do with the Rams or the Niners. So it's a little harder for us to gauge, not being in the know of what exactly their impact has been on their organizational decision making. But yeah, I think that it's definitely a much better list than it was 3 years ago or 4 years ago.
Right.
There's much more.
Just an heads up, because I was talking to Brandon Brown. I was talking to Ryan Hacker about this guy earlier today, and that will probably be airing either tonight or tomorrow. But Brandon Brown, his benefit is less about what he's doing with New York and more about what he did when he was with Indianapolis under Ryan Grissom, obviously New York, but what he did in Philadelphia also with Howie Roseman. So in those days, he kind of built up his resume, whereas he may have done some good things with New York. That's not necessarily where his bread is buttered, if you know what I mean. That's kind of where he made himself known in those other stops.
Yeah, Gregson, I think a few years ago was like the hot commodity. You had Ed Dodds there, and everyone was looking at Ed Dodds at GM, and that's kind of. I think Indianapolis has kind of faltered a little bit. If AR hits, though, you're golden. And I don't, I have never voiced my, I guess, personal connection to Anthony Richardson. I'm Jaguars Twitter, so it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But I did go to high school and college with Anthony Richardson.
Nice.
So I tried to get him to play baseball, but he was playing football. So I just saw 6'6" dude out there throwing 90 miles an hour, and I was like, he could pitch. Okay. So I know AR.
A little bit. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. So if he hits, fantastic. I'd be the happiest person, except for 2 times.
As a Jaguars fan, I don't need you to be happy right now. I need you to be all kinds of sad if that's the case. No, I need him to fail and flop, and I need him to fail and flop just enough where they'll hold on to him for another 2 or 3 more years as starting quarterback. Like, I don't even I need them to have questions at the end of this season, if you know what I mean.
And then you mentioned Howie Roseman, who's probably the best in the business right now.
Yeah,
I mean, the Eagles are.
What they say.
I mean, it definitely helps to just draft Georgia players.
Facts. I mean, but also I've said this argument so many times. A big part of being an NFL general manager, a big part of being an NFL general scouts is making the layups. Just being an average person with common sense. Like, if these guys are balling out of control together, why not get those same guys if you can and allow them to ball out of control from my team? If they're doing great doing this one thing in college, I'm not going to bring them in to do this other thing. No, I'm going to bring them in and hopefully have them do the exact same thing that made them the prospect that I wanted. I'm not going to create a project. And that's unfortunately how a lot of these guys in the front offices are.
Even the B-level players, I say B-level, they're Super Bowl team, but B-level players. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, what does he do really well? Getting his hands on the ball. And what is he doing for the Eagles? And this player that I've loved even to Florida, so I'm biased there, but I love Chauncey coming out and especially getting in people's heads. I mean, he's Ramsey-esque in terms of that. He's hilarious.
Yeah, that he is.
But it's definitely a
overall
good list.
No. Yeah, absolutely, man. But overall, those are the Jacksonville Jaguars general managers that we kind of have lined up right now, unless they feel the need to add someone else. We'll see. Knock on wood. We already talked about the fact that Jacksonville Jaguars had hired Tony Boselli as their executive vice president. 1, I wanted to know your thoughts on that. And 2, what were your thoughts as far as the hierarchy is concerned with all 3 parties, the EVP, the head coach, and the general manager, all kind of going to Shad Khan and reporting to him instead of reporting to the EVP? How do you feel about that?
If if Baselli is more of a voice for Jacksonville in the city, and
Mhm.
someone to kind of be in Shad's ear and have the best interest of the team and organization in mind, I'm fine with
Yeah.
that. I have reservations if it becomes more than that and more of a talent acquisition role, something he's never done and has
Mm.
never really worked with anyone in doing. Um, I think he's, obviously the best, one of, if not the best player in Jaguars history, but the game has also changed. It's not even the same sport now as it was when he played. And that's not to his fault, but that's just kind of the way it is. I mean, even in the last 5 years, the game has changed drastically, and I have reservations if it becomes a pseudo GM-esque role. If it's not that, fine with it. I think it's great for the organization. It's great to have that kind of a voice into the building. Something that I think that Jaguars fans have been a little voice their concerns about, is
Mhm.
whether or not there's someone in the building that has their best interests at heart,
Yeah.
rather than
Yeah.
simply organizational financial gain. Which Shad Khan's done a fantastic job of. He's tripled the value of the Jaguars since he bought the team. So,
Mm.
uh,
That he has.
and it's done a lot of good for the city of Jacksonville outside of football. But in terms of
Yeah.
football voice in the building, I think that's great. Um, the hierarchy thing. It sounds like Liam Cohen has got a decent amount of control beyond just what a general head coach might have.
Mm,
Um, I have
fair.
I have some reservations about that for someone who's never been head coach before. It's not
Mhm.
like a main concern, but I'm curious as how
Well,
that relationship works out with the GM.
and that's my biggest question. I mean, that's the biggest, I guess, inquiry for me that's kind of just like lingering there is like how much of this would cause any general managers that's incoming pause and taking the job. If they're someone who prefers to have final roster control, or if there's someone who prefers the traditional route as far as, hey, I'm the general manager, I should be over the coach, I should be able to hire my coach, and now you're handcuffing me to to the guy who's already been hired for the next 3-4 years at bare minimum. Am I going to be guaranteed, I don't know, 8 years as a general manager because you've already given me a guy I have to come in with? Like, that's some of the questions that I truly do have, and I know we won't have an answer on it, but that's kind of one of my questions when you're talking about trying to get one of the top guys in the cycle, like maybe an Ian Cunningham, or even the Gladstone for that matter. So I'm just curious about it, but we'll see. Nevertheless, that's kind of my thoughts on that, and I kind of covered some of that in the Tony Baselli video. Again, if you missed that, take a look back on the pod, take a look back on the YouTube. And also, same kind of situation. I wanted to kind of at least discuss what our friends over at the 33rd team kind of early this offseason showed us. Hey, these were the stats. These were the stats for the 2023 Buccaneers going over to 2024 under Liam Cohen. Tampa Bay's offense originally in 2023 was 20th in points per game, and they improved to fourth in the league. 23rd in yards per game, improved to third. 20th in yards per play, improved to fourth. 32nd in yards per carry, improving to third, and 17th in EPA per snap, improving to fourth. These are the benefits of having Liam Cohen run and organize your offense with his identity. Uh, but with all those improvements, what did you see? What do you see from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that make you think maybe Liam Cohen might be the right man for the job, or maybe he's not? I don't know if you have a different opinion.
I definitely thought that he was the second best option of the head coaching candidates available. I posted the stats for um, the head coaching candidates, and I was really
Yep.
in on Ben Johnson. What he was doing for the Lions was uh, so innovative. It was like
Yeah.
first in play action, first in motion, first in targeting the middle of the field, something that Jacksonville is dreadfully poor at. But yeah, the for Cohen, contrary to maybe a Ben Johnson, whose magic is really in the passing game. Uh,
Mhm.
Cohen, I'm really interested about the run game. Uh, the Bucks led the
Mhm.
NFL in yards per carry from a man gap scheme, something the Jaguars have familiarity with because that's what they mostly run themselves. So he's going to be coming here and they're going to have a similar running scheme to what Tampa had. And he was wildly. I mean, you just showed it 32nd to 3rd in yards per carry.
Yeah.
And it's not like they had a whole lot of turnover there on the inside. And you may see a little bit similar to the Bucs last year with if the Jaguars decide to replace Scherf or Mitch Morse, and go more of a mauler type of guard or center. I would imagine you probably replace Scherf before Morse, but I mean,
they don't have much of a choice but to replace Scherf because he's coming out of his contract with the team void. Essentially, it's going to happen. So they don't have a choice but to replace Scherf unless they're going to re-sign him or he decides to retire. We'll see how that goes.
Great pass blocker.
Yeah.
He's a quality pass blocker, but the Jaguars struggles recently the last couple of years have been, especially.
But to your point, you said Mauler, man scheme, and that don't jive with what the Jacksonville Jaguars have created on those 3 interior spots. I mean, you could even argue that doesn't even jive with Anton Harrison if you want to be honest about it. So then the question then becomes, if that is truly the scheme that they want to run, how many offensive linemen do they need? Like we were talking about 1 at right guard. Is it? I mean, they arguably need 3. Maybe even you can even argue the 4th one, but no one's going to talk about Anton Harrison because that's the guy. But
yeah, I think your tackles are probably solidified. I don't see them changing left or right tackle.
Right.
They just re-signed Ezra. I think you at most are looking at 2 new starters this season, and that there's certainly the ability for change, and I want fans to realize that. This isn't going to be a 1-year fix in terms of the run game. You can help it out drastically and through the run game, help out the offense as a whole in the pass game. Trevor Lawrence was talking about how their creativity was kind of constrained because of just how poor the run game was. The Jaguars were 32nd yards before contact. So, there's a lot that they can do there. But something with Cohen is just being more creative in the run game. Whether it's two backs in the backfield is something he did with Tampa. People talk about creativity on offense, and usually it's in regards to pass game, but there's a lot you can do in the run game as well. Look at Mike McDaniel, who's made his entire career off of being creative as a run game coordinator when he was at San Francisco.
No, that's fair. No, that's not you're not off base on that. Absolutely. Again, that was always my concern as far as what they're going to do with the interior O-line. To your original comment and your original point, Tampa Bay only brought in Ben Barton at right guard, and then they brought in Barton, the center. He was the first round draft pick, center. And that for the most part was the only changes that they made as far as the offensive line is concerned. And then they added Bucky Irving, again, not a top running back option to their stable, and that kind of changed it. But many people have been kind of pushing back on that whole we're not going to change over the running back situation because they look good, and I'm like, but we'll get into that in our overtime afterwards. But that's been a curious one for me. I want to know whether or not Liam's going to be able to do something similar here in Jacksonville with minimal change as far as the O-line is concerned. So yeah, we're gonna stay tuned for that because if he can, this thing's gonna be popping. But as a final thought, before we get into our overtime issues and our overtime kind of arguments, I won't call them arguments. We'll just say it's going to be our Ask Dan segment after the fact. We have a first-time EVP, first-time offensive coordinator candidates, pretty much all of them. A first-time defensive coordinator, multiple position coaches being promoted to the role. That's their first time doing it in an NFL. Where do you land on the whole experience of the coaching staff build? Like, where are you? Are you confident? Are you excited in the moves made? Are you concerned about having all these guys learning on the fly? Where are you landing?
Yes.
All of it.
Yeah. So I like Liam Cohen. It would have been awesome if the Jaguars were able to nab one of those top defensive guys that maybe has a little more experience in the league. But at the same time, there's something to be said for looking towards the future with a guy like Anthony Campanile. And, there's the defenses, especially with the Vance Joseph defensive scheme that's become so prevalent now in the NFL, there's something to be said for defensive creativity. You look at a guy like Spags, who I am going to bring up Ryan Nielsen here in a second, but Spags is winning. He won the Buffalo game simply with being a creative, innovative defensive coordinator. Not necessarily who their players were. It was, hey, we're going to send the most unique blitz that Josh Allen has seen in his entire NFL career, and we're going to win the game because I believe that this play is going to work. And that's something that he's notoriously one of the best blitz composers in the NFL. And you look at Ryan Nielsen last year, Jaguars were 32nd in blitz percentage, 30th in stunt percentage. Trayvon Walker is the 8th most chip player in the NFL. So, and you have the worst defensive tackle pressure rate in the NFL. You're legitimately sending just Josh Hines Allen and expecting to get pressure.
Wait. Rewind that. I didn't hear you say that again. They have the number what interior pressure in the NFL?
Last.
Trayvon
Walker's
defensive tackle.
Trayvon Walker is top 10 in most chipped. So offenses are taking him away. You have the 32nd pass rush defensive tackles. You do not blitz. You do not stunt. It's literally you're just sending Josh Allen and being like, all right, we'll try to get pressure. And it's a big reason why the Jaguars were 30th in pressure percentage with Trayvon Walker and Josh Allen is you're just literally sending – it's two guys running at each other, except for Trayvon Walker has to run through two guys.
Ooh, so what I'm hearing from you is this team was – or the defense wasn't as bad as we think they were. They were just – it was the coaching. Am I often saying that?
As far as the pass rush, I agree. I mean,
as far as the pass
also
okay.
Also, throw in Eric Armstead's just playing left bench for 60 or 55% of the game. You could have had him, Trayvon Walker, and Josh Hines Allen on the field, and at least given with Devon Hamilton, because I think Devon Hamilton's still a really good run stuffer, and I don't mean to discredit him. And then at the end of the season, you had Mason Smith who's coming along, who you can rotate him with Eric Armstead and maybe get Eric Armstead some outside. And then I think that the Jaguar fans would have looked more favorably upon Ryan Nielsen if you're going that way instead of just taking Josh Hines Allen and Trayvon Walker off the field for Miles Cole and Eric Armstead. And inside you have Jeremiah Ledbetter and Asezio Tombo, who I got respect for all of these players, but at the same time, you got to give yourself a chance here. You're not blitzing, you're not stunning, and it's not a recipe for success. And it's not like the secondary was any more creative. It's man heavy scheme.
Yeah. So they, exactly where they're going, exactly who's in coverage and who's covering who as soon as you line up, and you also know he's not stunning or blitzing. And yeah, that makes it very easy to kind of pick you apart in today's NFL. That would make it easier to pick you apart in high school football.
You're not doing anything unique. It's Jaguars also were, they ran. Yeah, it's you're making it really, it's an easy mode on offense for these offenses. And they struggled the entire year. It's not like teams caught up with them. So I really am amazed at how they maybe didn't think of changing that down the season and say, hey, this isn't working. Maybe we should blitz more. No.
Go ahead.
They don't even swap which sides Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines Allen are. And God forbid they put them next to each other. Maybe they should think
I mean, maybe they rock paper scissors for it. Who knows? And somebody just always loses every time. I don't know.
You could have snaps with Josh Hines Allen and Trayvon Walker on the same side of the ball. Trayvon Walker played a lot of DT at Georgia. I like him better at edge, but at the same time, like if you're going to start mixing things up, like Spags would have these people all over the place.
But also a third edge would have been beneficial, and that's not Miles Cole. I'm not downing Miles Cole. I think he had a solid. I think he was fine for a 7th round draft pick who you don't expect much from, and you're just trying to develop him. But also, come on, we had this being real about that.
We had those concerns when they traded Travis Gibson after they just signed him for. I don't know what they got. I don't know that would have made any difference anyhow.
A lot of odd moves, man. Just a lot of odd moves between that trade between Robinson Harris, which I was fine with, but I would have been finer with it if it would have happened in the offseason. Not if it's happening, it was just weird timing with everything, all of it. Like none of it made sense. The Travis Gibson, because you had no third defensive edge, rotational edge as far as that's concerned. Don't really know what the plan was, but those guys are gone, and it stinks, and that's kind of why they're going, probably because these weren't really well thought out plans. It doesn't seem like, anyways. But we are into better and much better times, hopefully, moving forward. Fingers crossed. But again, we've already kind of discussed the fact that we have concerns, but we're willing to give this front office actual, time to kind of figure it out because they've shown competency, and that's such a crazy thing. All we asking is for you just don't be wild in these streets. Just don't be crazy. Like, just make basic common sense decisions. And I think most of this fan base is going to be behind you. And I think that's kind of where I'm landing. I think that's what most people I've talked to. It's kind of where we're landing. It's just like, hey, man, just don't do crazy stuff. Don't hire a general manager who nobody else would hire, like as your top guy. Let's just not do that. And I think everybody will be happy. We still are awaiting news right now on the new Jacksonville Jaguars offensive coordinator. The word on the street is that's been resolved for some time, and they've just been, I don't know, figuring it out. Details maybe of a contract or something along those lines. But nevertheless, there's been no official word as far as the hiring of an offensive coordinator. We do have all of the defense and special teams coaches as far as that's concerned. The top tier guys, the top level guys, all the position coaches have already been done. And we just got the word today that Ron Rivera is going back to college. He interviewed recently to be a Jacksonville Jaguars senior.
Oh, I didn't see
that. A senior assistant head coach. Goodness gracious. So, and he, with that interview, is obviously not going to be here. So the Jacksonville Jaguars now have another potential opening for someone else if they need some veteran leadership, because he was a former head coach. So I am still a little bit weary about that piece, because I was kind of hopeful that he would be coming onto the staff. Yeah. A lot of youth, but we'll see. I'm not going to go crazy yet. We have the overtime segment that will be airing tomorrow, so absolutely stay tuned to the socials. Stay tuned to the podcatcher. Rate and review us if you're listening to the sound of our voice. Please like and subscribe, comment, stop being haters. Yes, but that's all the time we have for today. Please let the people know where can you be found, Dan?
I try to get 2 to 3 data posts out a day on Twitter at Dan D Griffis. And then, as well as, I'm posting some stuff on my website that's maybe a little bigger, and maybe some more stuff that needs more context than just simple 280 characters on Twitter.
Whatever it is, yeah.
And I've been trying my hand at some stuff, trying to get better at some coding so I can produce better content for you guys, and maybe more visually appealing than anything. I'm sure you saw the pressure in receiving graphs. Yeah, bar charts.
We'll be getting into that in overtime. So that's nice. That's what we call a tease in the business. I got you. Yeah. So if you don't know who Dan is, please follow him on all the socials. What's your Twitter name, or your Blue Sky, or your Facebook, or any of those socials?
At Dandy Griffis on X. I believe it's probably the same thing on Blue Sky. It may be Daniel Griffis. Daniel Griffis is taken on Twitter from some guy that hasn't posted in 7 years. So
nice. You need to call the authorities. I got you. No, I am Travis Holmes. Duval Dive, Fans First Sports Network, BigCatCountry.com. Take a look at the website. Like I said, please
my goat.
I
said my goat.
Oh man, thank you. Just stay engaged on the site. Keep it as your favorites. We'll keep you up to date again on all the coaching staff hirings, on the different general manager candidates. We have breakdowns of all those guys that we were just discussing. Any of the breaking news, any of the press conferences, we are here for you. We got you. Local, the longest running Jacksonville Jaguars fan group. Not fan group. I apologize. Fan site. On the SB Nation Network. Please favorite that site and get your information directly from the source. Stop feeding yourself garbage like, Yahoo Sports and all these other little places that they're just reading our stuff and just kind of compiling it. Come on, man, go straight. Come on over. Now we got you. But no, stay tuned. We will be starting overtime tomorrow. That should be dropping and on all your podcatchers. And Duval till we die. Duval. That's it.
Duval.
Dope.